Today we are beginning from 36B at the bottom, 5 lines from the bottom. So the excuse me. So Mishnah has said if you've taken the neder not to give someone any benefit, you can still teach them Torah. You can teach them the oral Torah, midrash, halachos, v'agados, but not the written Torah, not scripture, not Tanakh. So mikra might have a why not? Mishum dekamani, because he's giving him a benefit, right? This is something that ordinarily someone would pay for, a teacher, and you're foregoing that fee, so that is a benefit, a monetary benefit that you're giving it. So Gemara says, well, midrash nami kamahani, but that's also the case for the oral Torah, right? So if you're allowed to teach the oral Torah, why are you not allowed to teach the written Torah? We're talking about a place, where there's a practice to pay someone to teach the written Torah, but is not the practice to pay to teach the oral Torah. So my Pasco, why is there why does the Mishnah make that distinction without saying, in a play, without giving that important detail, right? Why does it make it a general rule rather than say this only applies to where the practice is to pay for teaching the written Torah? Even in a place where you do get payment for teaching the written Torah, al-hamikra shari l'mishkal, that is okay, but it is not okay to take money for the oral Torah. Okay, why? This is from a verse. So when Moshe is recounting the process of the giving of the Torah, so he says, and God commanded me at that time to teach you, right? And also he later says, see how I have given you the laws like God commanded me. So mani b'chinam afatem nami b'chinam. So as God commanded me implies that, well, obviously God did not take payment from Moshe for the teaching of the Torah. So Moshe likewise not supposed to take payment for teaching of the Torah. And by extension, no one is supposed to take payment for teaching of the Torah. And that was dealing with the Torah that was revealed to Moshe on Har Sinai, which is the written Torah, right? So we have a source to say that just as God didn't take any payment, as it were, for teaching us the written Torah, so we should not take any payment for that either. So if that's the case, no. So this implies that you should not take payment for, right? That you should not take payment. So how is it that there are places that do allow payments, right? Rav Amar Shima. Rav says, well, whenever you're teaching, you're also babysitting, right? You're also looking at the kids don't have to be looked after. If you're teaching them Torah, there's two elements there. The Torah, you can teach them the Torah for free, but somebody's got to pay you for the time for the value of the babysitting time. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, there's something else involved in teaching the written Torah. There's the written part, which you have to teach for free, but there's also the punctuation, the cantillation marks, and so on. So that that was not revealed, or that's not included in the prohibition against teaching the written Torah. That's part of the oral Torah. But when you're teaching the written Torah, you're of necessity teaching the punctuation and the cantillation, and so you're being paid for that, the oral Torah part of it. So Gemara asks, so our Mishnah said you can't, the person who made an neder not to benefit someone can't teach him scripture. So now let's apply this to our Mishnah. If you say the reason that you're allowed to take money for teaching Torah is that there's always oral Torah involved, right? Then that would accord with why a person who made a neder not to benefit someone can't teach him the written Torah, because there's also oral Torah involved. And that's something that is subject to payment. right? So he's giving him a monetary benefit.
One could argue that it's completely asur to teach the written Torah without interpretation, because it's going to be very misleading.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's implied here, right?
Yeah.
Of necessity, when you're teaching the written Torah, you're teaching oral Torah along with it, right? That's Rav Yochanan's view. Yeah. So yeah, but if you're saying that that the monetary part that the part that you're getting paid for as a teacher is not the teaching part, because that you can't get paid for, but you're getting paid for the babysitting part. Aha. So Gadol Bar Shimuhu, so that's fine when it comes to the guy's children. But if the Mishnah said explicitly, if you make a nether against giving someone benefit, presumably you're talking about a mature person, so he doesn't need babysitting. So if you're saying the monetary aspect that you're allowed to pay for is babysitting, then that doesn't exist here when you're teaching a mature person. So why does our Mishnah allow teaching of the written Torah? Right? Rabbi Yochanan said the reason is because there's a monetary value of babysitting, but there's no babysitting here. So Gemara says Bekatan Ketani, we're talking about a minor, right? Well, we're going to quickly disprove that. Ibukata name a seifa. But we said that in the end of the Mishnah, Aval Malamin is Barav Mikra. We said in the end of the Mishnah, you can teach the children, right? Meaning that the first statement was not about the children, it was about the person himself. Katan Barbanim who. So obviously a person who has children is a mature person, doesn't require babysitting. And so there's a value. The only value is the teaching of the Torah here. Excuse me. So Gemara says, we're going to fill in the Mishnah. We're going to reread the Mishnah. The Mishnah should read as follows: you can't teach Torah, written Torah, if the person is a minor. But if he was an adult, then you can teach him and his children written Torah. So this is clearly not what the Mishnah that we have says, but the Gemara is forced, according to Rabbi Yochanan's view, into recasting it so that it only applies to a minor, that you can't teach that you can teach written Torah to, because there's a babysitting fee involved. Okay, Meisve, another question. Tinokos lo karim b'chila b'Shabbos. Another brisa says that when you teach children Torah, don't teach them new material on Shabbos. Right? Shabbos is for review, not for new material. Shonin Barishon on Shonin Barishon, but you can review material even if it's only the first time that they're reviewing it. If according to Rav Yochanan's view, that the reason you can pay a teacher of Torah is because of the oral Torah that's involved in teaching written Torah. Fine. That's why you can't learn new material on Shabbos, because it's more difficult, right? To learn something for the first time takes more concentration and more effort. And on Shabbos is a rest day, the teacher, so the teacher is in teaching new material. The teacher is really putting in effort. In reviewing, he's not really teaching as much. Okay, so on Shabbos you can't teach new material, according to this view, because it's too much effort. Like you're being paid for a lot of effort. But if the monetary benefit in teaching is the babysitting benefit, what's the difference? You're babysitting on Shabbos, you're babysitting on Sunday, right? What's the difference whether it is new material or review material? You would be taking money for, what you're taking money for is babysitting, and the babysitting is identical whether it's Shabbos or a weekday. So where it says, well, wait a minute, wait. So your original question was, your original view was, okay, so if the teacher is only doing review, then that's not so much effort, but he's still getting paid for it. But anyway, havlahi, it's a fee that is included. The Shabbos fee is a fee that's included in the larger fee. Havla mishra shari. So I can't hire you to work for me on Shabbos, but I can hire you to work for me all week and pay you a weekly salary. And part of your duties are on Shabbos. That is okay. That's called havla. That's like inclusion. At the Tanya, what's the source for that? Hasocher if you hire someone to watch your child, you hire a nanny, or you hire a stable hand, or you hire someone to look after your field. You can't pay for this on Shabbos. You can't pay people for work done on Shabbos. Lefikach, so what do you do? Im avdu eno chayav b'achriyusan. So then, if this person is a shomer sachar, he's a paid watchman. A paid watchman, if an accident happens or something gets lost through no overt fault of the watchman, then he's not liable. But schir Shabbos, schir chodesh, schir shana, schir shavua. But if he is I'm sorry. So he would, as a paid watchman, would be liable, but since you can't pay the person on Shabbos, right? So he's not a shomer sachar; he's a shomer chinam. Clearly, he's doing this as a favor to you. If he's doing it as a favor to you, then he is not liable for accidental loss. But but if you hired him by the week or the month or the year, or a 7-year period, you hired him a lump sum, no single schar Shabbos, then you get paid for, you're being paid including your Shabbos work. Therefore, if a loss occurs, then you are a shomer sachar and you are responsible for accidental loss. So even according to Rabbi Yochanan, right, the reason that students shouldn't be studying new material on Shabbos can't be to avoid paying for the teaching on Shabbos, because you pay the teacher by the week, right? You pay him a salary, you don't pay him by the day. Ella Gabi Shabbos Hainu Tam Den Karmet Chila. So there's a whole different reason. What you can teach on Shabbos, only review material and not new material, has nothing to do with being paid on Shabbos. That's not the problem. The problem is Mishum de Yifnu Av Hasan de Yanukelu Mitzvasa de Shabsa, because if you're working hard, like if you're learning new material on Shabbos, you're spending a lot of effort in that, and you have less time to enjoy your family's company. Okay, so you're being taken away from the family environment, as it were, like from your instead of coming to a nice Shabbos lunch, you're upstairs in your room studying, or you're at the cheder studying. So that conflicts with owning Shabbos, with the enjoyment of Shabbos for you and for your family. Therefore, we don't do new material, but review material. Yeah, you got time to both come to lunch and review your studies, right? You can instead of taking a nap, you can review do your homework, as it were. Or you could answer Mishum de Bishabsa Achlin Vishasim. It's because you eat and drink more than usual on Shabbos. Via Karla and Alma, and then things are heavier, right? It's like you're lethargic after you have a big meal. You're sluggish, and so you're maybe not in good enough shape after a good meal to learn new material. You really need to take that nap. Shmuel says Shinoi Vesas Tchila Cholim. Changing your regular habits, like eating a big lunch on Shabbos, which you don't usually do in the week, that is the beginning. That's the first step in developing intestinal disease. So since we assume that you're going to have a big meal on Shabbos, it's probably not a good idea to spend a lot of effort afterwards in studying new material. But so the prohibition against studying new material on Shabbos has nothing to do with payment, nothing to do with monetary value. It's these other external reasons. Okay, so now Gemara is going to investigate, like, why does Rav say the difference is difference between written and oral Torah? One says it's because you're paying a babysitting fee is included, and the other says no, because you're also teaching oral Torah when you're teaching written Torah, and that deserves a fee. So according to the view that you're teaching oral Torah as well, my why don't you say, like, why didn't you take the other position that there's babysitting involved? So because he answers, because he holds Banos Mikabayan Shimur, because you don't have to babysit boys, you don't have to babysit girls. Girls don't get themselves into trouble, and they're probably busy doing the housework anyway. So they don't have time to get in trouble. They don't need a babysitter, right? They're, whatever. That's clearly a cultural point. But boys need a babysitter. So that's why I'm going to pin the monetary value here, since we said you can teach your sons and daughters. I'm not going to pin it on babysitting because that doesn't apply to everyone. I'm going to pin it on the value of the oral Torah that you're getting. Okay, so according to the babysitting view, why don't you go with the oral Torah view? No, that's part of teaching the written Torah. That's like that is an essential part of the written Torah. When I say you can't take money for teaching written Torah, that includes the cantillation and punctuation. It's all of a piece. And where does that come from? Ravika said, "My deceive." There's a verse in Ezra or Nehemiah, I forget. In Nehemiah, which says, "Vayikru v'sefer Torah Elohim mefarash." They read in God's Torah, elucidated, good translation. The Som seichel, and intelligently, by Avinu b'mikra, and they understood the mikra, the scripture. So how do we interpret all these phrases? Vayikru b'sefer Torah Elohim. They read God's Torah as a mikra. That is scripture. Mefarash is a targum. Mefarash means the translation, the Aramaic translation. V'som seichel, and intelligently, ela psukim. These are the punctuation, the divisions of one pasuk to another. By Avinu b'mikra, and they understood the pisuk tamim. That's the cancellation. Gamrila elu amasaros, or the traditions of different spellings and malay and chaser, plane and deficient spellings. So these are all. This indicates that part of the essential nature of studying Torah, written Torah, includes all these other things, and so it's included in the prohibition against taking money for it, and therefore there is no monetary value, and a person takes another against someone can still teach written Torah even with all the cantillation and punctuation. Okay. Rav Yitzchak says, Mikra Sofri, the reading of the reading as done by the Sofrim, by the scribes, meaning the way that, like, as you know, the Torah is written with no vowels. So the vowelization of the Torah, the Itur Sofrim, and the embellishments of the scribes, which apparently means words that are used for poetic purpose and not for semantic purposes. Vikarya v'loksivan, words that are written but not read. Read but not written. Viksivan v'lokarya, or written but not read. And we'll see some examples. Halacha Moshe Misinai. These are all oral tradition of Moshe that Moshe got from God in Har Sinai. Mikra Sofrim. What do these mean? So the reading of the scribes are eretz and aretz. So there are words that if they are at the end of a sentence and they have a segel, like eretz is written at the end of a sentence, Or Shamayim and Mitzrayim. Again, these things have a kamatz instead of a patach. So instead of in Ashkenazi Hebrew would be Mitzrayim instead of Mitzrayim at the end of a sentence, or Shamayim instead of. I'm not sure how Shamayim differs. Shamayim and Shamayim. So these are all things that are called Mikra Sofrim. Ishur Sofrim was the embellishment of the scribes. Achar Ta'avorim. So an example is when Avram says to the visiting angels, the visitors, he says, first eat and drink something, and then achar, afterwards you can go on your way. He could have just said you can go on your way. What does he have to say? And afterwards you can go on your way. This seems to be an extra word. So that is an example of embellishment. Achar telech, or the same thing when they said about Rivka, her family said, let her grow up first, or wait 10 months or whatever, and then she can go. The words, and then achar, afterwards she can go. The word afterwards is extra. Achar teasef. When the Torah says about Miriam that she had to be, after the incident where she spoke negatively about Moshe, then she had to be sent outside the camp for 7 days, and the commandment was achar teasef, and then afterwards she can rejoin the camp. Again, the word afterwards is redundant. Kidmu sharim achar nognim. A verse that is from Tehillim. First go the singers and then the musicians. So again, achar, the afterwards, is redundant. Tzidkascha kahar re'el, your God, your righteousness is like the great mountains. It could have just said without the kaf hadimyon, without the is like. It could have said your justice, your righteousness is a mighty mountain. Okay, so it's an extra letter. Okay, so Karyam V'Loksiva. What about words that are read but not written? Paras de Belechto. So there's a verse in Shmuel where basically this word is left out. It doesn't appear in the written text, but we read it when we read it. We add this word. Ish de kasher yishal ish bidvar Elohim. A similar case in Shmuel Beis where the word ish does not appear in the text but is read. Ba'im de nivnasa. Another example. La de plata. Es the Hugad Hugad, the article Hugad Hugadli Es Asher Asis Kol Asher Asis L'Chamasech and Root, where the word Es is not written but is read. That's a more well-known one because we read Root in public, of course, in Shul on Shavuos. Eli de Hagaran, similarly in Root, there's another word Eli which is missing from the text, but we read it when we read it in public. Eli de Hasarim, another case, it's a third case in Ruth. Halain Karyam V'Loksivan. These are all things that are read but not written. V'Loksivan V'Lo Karyam. What about words that are written but not read? Na de Yislach. A verse in which in which it says Yislachna is the written version, but when we read just Yislach and not please. And similarly, there's those the Hamitzvah. Hamitzvah has Zos, so the Zos word is not written but is read anyway. Yidroch de Hadorech, the second hey in this word Hadorech. Chamesh de Pas Negev. This is a verse from Yecheskel. These are all just simple examples of words that are written but not read. Im de ki goel, ki im goel. So this is the only one that I'm familiar with, again, because it is in the Book of Ruth. And so when you read it publicly, even though the word appears in the written scroll, it is omitted when you read it. Okay, we will stop here, and David will pick up.
Thank you.
Good Shabbos,
Good
everybody.
Shabbos. Good Shabbos all.
Thank you.